Of the Lake County Investment Advisory Committee for this 28th day of April of 2022. Let's see, I'd like to do the roll call, please.
Commissioner John Hammercheck.
Here.
Commissioner Ron Young. Here. And Treasurer Michael Zern, present.
Very good. All right, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 13, 2022, waiving reading thereof?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? None being heard? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ron Young.
Yes.
Commissioner John Hammercheck.
Yes.
And Treasurer Mike Zern. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do we have any old business to come before us? Any old business? No? All right, moving on to new business. Investment review. You are up.
Well, thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
And crazy weather correlates with the crazy economy, I think, to say the least. I did not expect it to be 20-some degrees this morning. But any event, thank you so much for another quarter opportunity to provide an update on what's happening in the market as it relates to the county's investments, and then the update on the portfolio. Okay, if we want to go one more. Okay, so as I said, it has been a crazy year, and it's really been a very fast-moving year. What we have here is the Federal Reserve rate projections that they do issue and update on a quarterly basis. And so when we look at the labels on the right-hand side of the graph, that indicates the time period of when that forecast was issued. So certainly when we look back a year ago, March of 2021, the Fed was communicating to the marketplace that interest rates would pretty much remain where they were, which was at that zero bound. And then as economic conditions started to improve, particularly as the outlook for COVID ending, as well as U.S. economy and global economies opening, the expectations started to rise as it relates to where overnight rates would be. And then as we can see, getting into where we are here today, which is the top line, March of 2020, the current guidance is that interest rates will have moved, will be moving very dramatically here going forward over the next 2 years. So as we can see, we did have the Fed meet mid-March, March 16th. At that point, they did increase the overnight rate by 0.25%, which puts us in a range of 0.25 to 0.50%. But the Fed is indicating that it's very likely by the time we get to the end of 2023, at this point, just basically about 18 months from now, that overnight rate will be in excess of 2.5%. So clearly a very fast pace of interest rate movement anticipated, and clearly a very fast adjustment in that communication from the Fed. So the key point when we think in terms of this is what the Fed is communicating is to look to see what is the market anticipating. Is the market anticipating the same, or is the market anticipating something differently? So when we look at our next page here, what we are showing is that on the blue line, in essence, that Fed funds target that the Fed will be has communicated, and then we are looking at the actual rates that are available on U.S. Treasury securities at different points in time. And so the line and the dots are aligned, and so what that is telling us is that the market has already priced in expectations that the Fed will move interest rates up beyond that 2 to 2.5% range. Of course, the question becomes, will that be enough? Will it be too fast, or will it be just right? And interestingly enough, as I was telling Treasurer Zern this morning, we did receive the GDP report for the first quarter of 2022, and it was unexpectedly signaled contraction of the U.S. economy. Expectations were that, yes, growth would slow, but that we would still have continued growth of the U.S. economy. But the first quarter preliminary numbers indicated that the U.S. economy contracted by 1.4%. So, of course, we know if we have 2 consecutive quarters of negative activity in the U.S. economy, that is a signal that the U.S. has entered a recession. And we have started to see many other economists and the like on the street start to indicate that as we get further along in this interest rate cycle, that there are, of course, numerous risks to the U.S. economy and numerous risks to the Fed perhaps being able to attain the levels that they're striving to get to, and that the likelihood of the U.S. economy falling into a recession in early 2022 is starting, or early 2023, is starting to rise. So one of the factors that, of course, contributed to the Fed's movement in their outlook for interest rates, as well as the market's outlook, is the employment picture. So when we look at the next page here, we clearly can see that the unemployment rates across the various states in the U.S. are mixed, but overall, on a combined basis, the March unemployment rate had dropped to 3.6%, which is in line with the Fed's definition of full employment. This return to full employment really started to gain some steam, we would say, in December and January of this year. So up until this point, there was still significant room in the unemployment rate to improve before the Fed could declare kind of victory on that front. But even in spite of a very low unemployment rate, we still have 1.2 million people who have still not returned to work relative to the levels of employment in February 2020, pre-pandemic. But we are starting to see an increase in that labor force participation rate, where there is some growth in people returning to work. So that certainly is a positive sign. So the other factor and the big factor that really has, been, kind of the front page news and really the major factor in what we're seeing in interest rates is what's happening with inflation. So when we look at the consumer price index in the chart here, breaking out the components, the main components of the consumer price index, overall we can see based on the red line that inflation has continued to escalate. We think back a year ago, the Fed was saying, oh, well, inflation's kind of transitory. We think it's going to revert back to its 2%, 2.25%, 2.5% target. Well, that didn't happen. And more so, inflation has continued to increase at an increasing pace, and last stands at 8.5% for the consumer price index. Much of that increase, or a high portion of that increase, has been related to energy costs, as the price of energy has skyrocketed. And even just last month, the price of gasoline, so that impacts the consumer directly, increased at an annual rate of 18%. But one of the factors that we have seen changing when we look at this chart is the gold bars, which represents the inflation in the price of goods. Clearly had increased back in 2021, and the rate of increase has continued to grow, but not at too significant of a change. But the concern of late more so has been the increases that we're seeing in the price of services, which is the blue bars on the bottom. And when we think in terms of services, factors that impact those prices, of course, include the price of energy, because clearly a lot of service industries, whether we think in terms of lawn care services and the like, where they are having to drive to your home or to the businesses to provide those services, those costs have increased, as well as, of course, as we've seen, the price of labor, as things like minimum wage levels have increased, as well as some workers have started to be able to procure higher wages as a result of this inflation. So moving on to what has this done to the level of interest rates, the absolute level of interest rates, we look at the U.S. Treasury yield curve. So, of course, this graph shows the yield on U.S. Treasury securities at different maturity dates, and we're showing the periods of where rates were December 2020, December 2021, and then where they were at the end of March. And today they are still up a little bit, but we can clearly see that the significant increase in interest rates did occur post December 2021, so in this first quarter of 2022. And I can say that a fair amount of that also did occur more so from late February to the end of March. So clearly the market has already moved interest rates ahead as they anticipate not only what the Federal Reserve will do, but also anticipating the need for this inflation to perhaps get back down to a better level, but maybe it will be persistent for a little bit longer, as well as perhaps that impact on economic growth, where the market is not anticipating that we will experience the heady economic growth that we experienced in 2021 going forward. So moving on to the county's portfolio. This is where the county's portfolio stood at the end of March. Securities, monies invested in securities were increased by $12 million in March. So we now have $171.5 million invested in securities. A cash balance is still pretty healthy. Treasurer Zern and I met this morning to talk about, to look at some of those numbers and assess a plan to start to make that kind of a more reasonable number going forward. So we look to have some improvements shown in that regard, with reallocating additional funds to the investment portfolio as investment securities are yielding significantly more than what overnight rates are at this stage. The portfolio right now has a weighted average maturity of 2.25 years, so we think that's about right in that sweet spot of being a little short relative to the midpoint, which would be about 2.5 years. The weighted average yield has increased from last quarter. It increased from 0.93% to 1.06%. We do have a fair amount of dollars maturing here in the next year. And actually, as we can see in the maturity distribution, $36.3 million maturing over the course of the next 12 months, of which $11 million matures this quarter. So that reinvestment of those maturities will be at significantly higher rates. To kind of put it in perspective, the securities that mature in this next quarter were currently yielding 0.37%, but as we are reinvesting funds, we will be reinvesting them at yields in that 2 to 2.5% range. So that will certainly have a benefit to the county, and certainly start to move the portfolio yield overall higher in reaction to interest rates. So again, as we look at our strategy, what do we think is prudent from an maturity allocation? We still think it is prudent to maintain some commitment to longer-term maturities, i.e. locking in interest rates to protect against if the U.S. economy were to slip into a recession. We would look to maintain that in that 30 to 40% range. Right now we're at 39%. And then the balance maturing inside of 3 years, which provides us with that flexibility to adjust the strategy as market conditions may change. So that being said, that wraps up what I have here today, and appreciate the opportunity and happy to answer any questions.
Mr. President,
Please.
I wanted to make a few comments. First of all, I wanted to thank Eileen Stanek for all her guidance and expertise with the investment portfolio. I wanted to point out on the last slide the cash position of $231 million. That is inflated because of the tax collection that happened during the month of February. So it is typically not that high. And I also wanted to note that we have started moving the first quarter of 2022 cash into investments for a greater return. The first amount moved was $12 million, and we've already discussed a couple other movements from cash to investment correlating with the Fed meetings. The first one I think is in about a week, May 3rd. So we're watching that closely so we can move some more money and from cash to investments to maximize returns for the county and do it in the safest manner with the rising interest rates that are probably going to be happening for years.
Correct.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ask the usual question. So the Fed is taking the position full employment, yet it's the traditional, they're ignoring people that have just stopped looking.
Yes.
How is that going to impact the numbers?
Well, I think, what we're seeing, of course, is the Fed has clearly shifted their focus, right, from the jobs picture to the inflation picture. And to your point, right, with taking their eye off of, the jobs number, what we view will occur is that, if unemployment just stays where it is and folks don't return to work, then this may be the new environment we operate in. But the inflation picture, that's clearly a bigger threat to the U.S. economy and a bigger threat to the consumer as well. And the Fed has started to echo some language that we had heard during the early 1980s when inflation was at very elevated levels, which is we will do what it will take. So we know during the 1980s that was a very difficult interest rate period. From the standpoint of interest rates rose very quickly and rose to very high levels as investors. That was a good thing, but the flip side of that was it did push the U.S. economy into a rather deep recession. So a lot of risks there, and certainly to the point of on the employment number, I don't think anyone has the real answer yet of how do we get people back to work. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anything further?
I did have just a sort of a theoretical question
Okay.
that you probably will not be able to answer. Not that I lack faith in your abilities, but it's maybe an impossible question to answer. And that's simply that we keep comparing employment rates pre-pandemic with today, and their total numbers, I think, are still
Right.
1.2 million under what they were pre-pandemic. And a lot of people are assuming, like I did for a while, that that's due to over generosity on the federal government's part, simply paying people to stay home. And part of it may be due to that, but at the same time, could it be at least in part to the idea that, like in Lake County here, we have an aging population, so a significant number of people are just feel it's time to walk away. They're retiring. And although many are working, even in retirement, at various Walmarts, whatever, still the overall number of people available for work is maybe being reduced, at least in part because of that. I'm wondering, which is the predominant, which is the main source of those changes? Is it people being paid to stay home by the government, or is it people just deciding to stay home because they're finally ready to stop working in retirement?
Well, and you raise a very good question, because you're right. As we were early on in the stages of the economy recovering, and there was a large number of people, it seemed, who were not returning to work. The statistics were trying to determine really what was that reason, and a lot of it was because folks were being provided stimulus dollars. The daycare situation didn't align with folks' desire or need to go back to work, so they kind of had to stay home. But what has come out of all of this, now that many of those factors have either passed due to time or daycares are back up to speed, has been a realization that you're spot on. It is we've seen an increase in the folks who were retired, who in the past still held either part-time jobs or full-time jobs, who then during the pandemic were not working and determined, oh, hey, I don't need to go back to work, and this has been working okay. And so we've seen a really big drop in the number of folks that fall into that retirement category that are back to work. So there has been a significant increase in the number of retired people who have not returned to work. Yeah.
Thank you.
I've seen those charts. I don't have the exact numbers though, but
Which would be the predominant factor? Would it be?
I say now it's the retirees not returning to work.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. little different.
Very good. Okay, if there's nothing further, new business-wise, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, roll call?
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamercheck?
Yes.
Treasurer Zurin, yes?
Very good. This Lake County Investment Advisory Committee stands adjourned, and we will roll directly into our county commissioner meeting. And I would like to thank everyone for joining us today for the 17th meeting of the Lake County Board of Commissioners. If we could swap out our crew here while we're making all this work. Our IT guy's smiling at me like, well, you got the transition good, but now you just got to get all the players in their seats.
It's been good hearing from you after your quarter.
Okay, and with that, all those who are willing and able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority, and may we use in our directives for the common good, and for thy honor and glory. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Present.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Hamercheck.
Here. All right, we have before us the meeting minutes for the regular meeting of April 7, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve same, waiving the reading thereof?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamercheck.
Yes. Very good. This moves us to our first public comment portion. Let's see, Mayor Morley, I believe you have a bit of a time crunch, so did you want to comment? I see the sheriff is clearing the way for you. If only the people on the other end of that camera could see what goes on in the audience sometimes.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Hope you're all having a good day. Just wanted to stop up again. Mayor Dennis Morley, City of Eastlake. Thank you. As you know, Tuesday you're at the City Council meeting, and Council accepted the $3.6 million for the renovations of the field house and the remainder of the stadium. So again, I just want to thank you. It was, as you guys are aware, that President Myers and I gave you guys the key to the city, so I don't know which doors it'll open, but you can try when you're in the city. So again, thank you for myself, the city, and City Council. Appreciate it.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, sir.
Just one quick question. Did you use some of that money to afford that beautiful maroon headband that you're wearing today?
My sunglasses
Oh, yeah.
are, no, I didn't use any of that money for that.
Thank
Only for the ballpark.
Yes, all within full federal procurement guidelines, and yay. Right?
Absolutely, we made that perfectly clear at the council meeting that we did all our due diligence, that it was correct on being used for that, though.
The
Thank you again.
headband does complement your overall apparel, though.
I appreciate
Very,
that.
very well done.
Thank you. Sheriff.
I won't be here next week, so I wanted to take a moment to congratulate Commissioner Young on his retirement. As one of his classmates once said, 77. No, I'm just kidding on that. I was talking to the commissioner before the meeting, and I said, I'm not sure you want to retire because a lot of people who are motivated tend to be much busier in retirement than they are in their regular job. So I want to wish you good luck on that. But we at the Lake County Sheriff's Office appreciate everything that you've done as commissioner in your service. So I wanted to give you a plaque that says, it said that true public servants have the ability to work together for a common vision. It's the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results. This commendation is to express our appreciation for your 20 years of public service and to recognize your contributions to the citizens of Lake County whom you so diligently serve. So congratulations in your retirement.
Well, thank you, Sheriff. That means a great deal to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, if you could just hold this, I've got our clerk kind of looking at him like, hey, here's your cue. So, Commissioner Young, if I may, on behalf of Commissioner Plechnik and myself, to echo and add to what the sheriff has said, here's a certificate of recognition. For his years of distinguished service to Lake County. Whereas Ron Young has served as member of the Lake County Board of Commissioners since 2019, and prior to his role as commissioner, he served Lake County as a state representative from 1997 to 2004. In 2010, he was re-elected as state representative, serving another 4-year term, devoting himself to duty, responsibility, and honor of public service with unwavering commitment until his retirement as county commissioner on May 4th, 2022. And whereas during his tenure as commissioner, Ron helped to balance the county budget without any tax increases, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, reduced the county budget by 10%, initiated the small business grant loan program that helped save jobs and companies in Lake County, working with his fellow commissioners who are exceptional, brilliant, and genius. Oh, I'm sorry, I went off script there. John, what did you add that here? His fellow commissioners used his experience from Columbus to vastly improve Lake County's government relations initiatives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lake County Board of Commissioners, in and for Lake County, Ohio, hereby express its gratitude to Ron Young for the dedication and leadership he provided to serve the ever-evolving needs of Lake County. On behalf of the county and its grateful staff, we wish Ron a healthy, peaceful, and fulfilling future, sharing in the company of family and the many friends he has amassed, enriched by the legacy he leaves on the county and the culmination of an exemplary career in public service. With God, all things are possible. So, as long as we're all doing that, Ron, if we could present these to you.
Well, one more thing. We'd have gotten you a bigger plaque, but you cut that line item from our budget. So, sorry.
I was going to avoid saying ours is bigger because somebody's going to say we're, no, never. Yeah, on that note.
All right, well, if only some of
Forgive
that
me
were
for being
true.
just a bit folksy here, but Ron, this is a bit emotional and bittersweet. Love it, Ron.
It's been good working with you guys. Thank you. And even you, Sheriff.
Oh, somebody's got to work with me.
All right.
It is kind of puny there.
I'm sorry.
Am I being charged for this time?
Now this time you get to stand. Come on up here, Sheriff.
Thank you again.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
It says probably fraud.
Oh, take that call. Oh, come on. Where the public gets to see what goes on behind the scenes. All right. Ron, is there anything you want to say there that
Well, I was just, as I said earlier, if some of that was actually true, it'd really be nice. But it's been a pleasure working with you. We've done some great things, and I'm looking forward to my next job, which will be working very hard to do as little as possible. But it's been a great experience as commissioner, and I've learned a lot, and I'm happy that I was able to be part of this crew here and to make a real difference in Lake County. So thank you.
Bless you, sir. Commissioner Plechnik, anything you want to add, sir?
Mr. President, I would just say again, we thank you, Ron, and I personally thank you. It's been an honor to serve with you. I believe we have made a great difference together, and it's so rewarding to have that opportunity to work with a great leader like yourself. I'll repeat again because it bears repeating. It is a small miracle that through cancer and COVID and great personal loss, you never missed a meeting. That was your level of dedication to the taxpayer, to Lake County, to your community and neighbors. You put them first. Even when you were at death's door, you still put your neighbors and your commitment to Lake County first, and it's an inspiration to all of us about how important this work is, how a great leader really is, as Jesus said, a servant, and you put everyone in front of yourself, and God blessed you by giving you a miraculous recovery and a chance to retire and enjoy time with your family and your neighbors, I believe because of how you so selflessly said, I'm putting my community first. So, I take you as an example of the kind of leader we're all called to be, which is a servant. So, thank you, Ron.
Bless you. Well, I'm going to look over here at our county engineer. I know you and Ron go way back, and you've been a good partner working with Ron for pretty much that entire run. So, Engineer Gills, Jim, did you want to add to this conversation?
Well, I would just say that it's been a real pleasure working with Ron over the years. Early on, Ron's ideals and principles were the kind of things that attracted me to support him, and the things that he's done. He's always been there for Lake County. He's always been there for the engineer's office, and I would just say we are going to miss you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, moving on, public comments. Do we have anyone in the audience wishing to add anything? Sir, Mr. Music. Welcome, sir.
John Music, 45 Coventry Drive, and I just
the mic on,
want to add
or?
to you, Commissioner,
John, hang on just a second. I don't think your mic's on.
Okay.
There you go.
John Music, 45 Coventry Drive, Painesville Township. Commissioner Young, I want to add a few things. If I remember correctly, you also served in the military, am I correct?
Yes.
And my opinion of a person is, in my opinion, is I believe in God, family, and country. And the state and the county are all part of this country. And I believe that you are a true example of a servant of all. And I want to thank you for that, and I wish you a long, healthy, happy retirement. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, anyone else wish to address the board at this time? Anyone else? All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, first agenda item, please.
In the engineer's office, resolution to advertise for bids for the Callow Road Bridge Replacement Project in Leroy Township, Ohio, OPWC number CU00Y, LCE project number 2021-007, bid opening May 18, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Well, this is a satisfaction of a threat by Ron Young. I didn't open this damn bridge pretty soon. He was going to have me for lunch. This is a bridge that failed about a year ago. We went to Public Works and got an emergency grant to help us rebuild it. It is now ready to go, and we're hoping for good bids in light of the present material shortage, so we'll have to see, but fortunately, it's moving forward.
Very good. The fact you achieved this, you can maintain your current position for at least another 6 months.
No, thanks. I'll try real hard.
All right.
Any further discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving the revised specifications and estimates of cost and authorizing re-advertising for bids for the Chapel Road and Vrooman Road resurfacing project, City of Painesville, Leroy and Madison Townships, and Perry Village, Ohio, LCE project number 2022-006, bid opening May 18, 2022.
Move to approve.
I'll second that. Jim, did you want to enlighten us?
Yeah, this project originally was put out for bids and it had a glitch in it. We sent out an addendum and our engineer who is in charge of this project, Ted, went to Florida to spend Easter with his son, and unfortunately there was a glitch in the glitch. So we decided to pull this project, wait for Ted to come back, get it straightened out, so we didn't have a problem during the construction or during the bidding. So, and we fixed it, and we're ready to go back out for bids.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Utilities Department, resolution approving change order number 1 with Terrace Construction Company Incorporated for Mantle Road Waterline Replacement Project 407W, increasing the total contract amount by $142,944.08.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Randy, a little background there, please.
Sure. This is a new water line on Mantle Road. It's a 24-inch HDPE water line that's being bored. It'll be a main feed to the south end of our system from our water plant. We ended up having a conflict with a pipe that was deeper than expected, so we had to remobilize, move the drill rig back, and ended up with that, plus additional footage of drilling. So that's the result of this change order.
So it was just something that was previously not installed per plan. That's the difference between as-built and theoretical, and you ran into somebody's, did it their way.
It is, and yeah, the consequences of all of our utilities being 5 feet plus underground, and typically it works out. This time it did not.
Got it. All right, anything further? Thank you, sir. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving plan specifications and estimates of cost in the amount of $3,110,000 for Cell C4 expansion Phase 6 Part E 7.3 acre cell construction project number 421L and advertising for bids for the same. Bid opening May 18, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Again, Randy, a little background.
Sure. This is our continuing saga of expanding our landfill, and this is quite a bit of dirt work on the south side of the current cell, and it will provide about 25 years of capacity when it's complete.
Excellent. All right, if there's nothing further, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing advertising for bids for organic polyelectrolytes polymer for the Lake County Department of Utilities. Bid opening May 18, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of a contract with Cummins Sales and Service procured through Sourcewell on behalf of the Lake County Department of Utilities for the replacement of commercial diesel generators for the Aquarius Water Treatment Switchgear and Generator Project 435W in an amount not to exceed $315,740.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Randy, do you want to give some background on that one?
Sure. This project is part of our capital improvement plan. It replaces the original generators from the plant, which was constructed in 1985, so about 37, 38 years old, and they're just beyond their useful life, and that's what this purchase of this generator will do.
And just a additional background, again, we've pretty much standardized on this manufacturer. There's also a state term schedule. So there's a number of steps. I know our prosecutor's office has reviewed this thoroughly and determined that this is the appropriate course of action. I don't know, legal, do you want to add anything to that? Or?
No, it is through the Sourcewell program, which is a state bid contract site. We did review it.
Excellent. Anything else you want to add, sir?
I think that'll do it.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any other questions? All right, hearing none. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations within the Lake County Department of Utilities Water Operating Fund.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Water Operating Fund and Project Fund 595, Vine Street Waterline Replacement Project 430W.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash from Lake County Department of Utilities Sewer Operating Fund to Project Fund 596, Project 465S, Brookdale Road Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
And Job and Family Services Department, resolution approving Lake County Department of Job and Family Services vouchers, date of warrant May 6, 2022, in the amount of $74,423.40.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Commissioner's Office, resolution accepting a grant and authorizing execution of a 2021 Coverdell Grant Agreement, subgrant number 2021, PCNFS 7802, in the amount of $30,987.30 between the Lake County Board of Commissioners on behalf of the Lake County Crime Laboratory and the Office of Criminal Justice Services, effective January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Legal, did you want to comment on this? Because I know this is part of the ongoing initiatives within the prosecutor's office and the crime lab to seek out all funding available, especially outside the general fund.
That's correct, Commissioner. This is an annual grant that's administered through the Ohio Criminal Justice Services Department. And it goes towards controlled substance testing, some software with regard to that, and there is no matching funds on behalf of Lake County.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Anything further? Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing the Lake County Sheriff to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Watercraft, to obtain matching funds in the amount of $34,997.91 for Marine Patrol for the year 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Again, another example of our Sheriff's Department also seeking out outside funding. Sheriff, is there anything you wanted to add to that, sir?
No.
No? Thank you. Okay. But again, just another example of our elected leaders and our department heads doing everything they can to protect the general fund. So with that said, if there's nothing else, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of 2 quit claim deeds to Lake Metro Parks for the property located at the Southerly Terminus of Roman Road.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Jim, did you want to add to that? 'Cause I know that was your
Yeah.
big baby down there.
This is a property that is part of the Vernon Road Bridge project. The first piece is a 16-acre piece formerly owned by Sidley that was purchased as part of an agreement with the park to allow us to build the bridge through the park and get construction as well as permanent easements for the piers. It is part of the environmental commitment to the feds, Fish and Wildlife, and everybody else in the country, which there are numbers of these agencies that we had to satisfy. And the second piece is a piece right at the corner of 84 and the new Vernon Road Bridge, and where River Road used to be. That's the Anslick property. It's 1.6 acres, less the area that we needed for the right-of-way for Vernon Road Bridge. That is a commitment by the county to the park to deliver this in consideration of some additional easements and things that we needed in order to complete the bridge that came up along the way. So both these pieces, once they are transferred to the park, that is the last thing that we have to do to satisfy both the federal government and Ohio Department of Highways to complete this project. They will close this project out, and it'll be 150% ours and done and finished and all the above.
And I think it's also fair to say that the Metro Parks were a good partner in this project. It was challenging in many ways, but they were a good partner.
Oh, they were exceptionally good. We had a number of things. This was an environmental nightmare. We had a number of things come up before, during, and after the process, and they just, whatever it took, they worked with us and got it done quickly and efficiently and happily.
Excellent. All right, if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between the Lake County Narcotics Agency and the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association expiring March 31st, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President?
Sir.
I would just say that our HR Director Joel DeMar worked very hard with the Narcotics Board, the commissioners, as well as the union to have an equitable agreement that doesn't overly cost the taxpayer, but nonetheless treats our law enforcement officers with the respect they deserve. There was no need to hire outside consultants or counsel, and so the county saved money on those negotiations, and it's just my way of saying a thank you to Joel.
Very good. If there's nothing further.
Oh, and we have the director here who also worked with Joel on those negotiations. I do apologize. We thank you as well.
Excellent. All right, if there's nothing further, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Courtview Justice Solutions Incorporated for a case management system software program for the Lake County Court of Common Pleas Probate Division.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Just another example of our continuing commitment to our judicial system and modernization for the effective and efficient application of justice. So I don't know if we could add any more to that. If there's nothing more to be said, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $1,428,076.90.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $832,111.62.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations for various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Okay, moving on to departmental reports, utilities.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to thank Commissioner Young for his service to Lake County as Commissioner and as representative, and his support for our department through the years. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. And good luck. So-
Anything for Randy? Okay, sir, thank you. Job and Family Services, Suzanne.
Following in Randy's footsteps, I just wanted to express my best wishes to you, Commissioner Young. Thank you for your service to Lake County. It's been a pleasure working with you for a short time, and I hope that you have a wonderful, happy retirement.
Thank both of you. It's been great seeing you over there every day, every commissioners meeting. And your input has always been spot on, always spot on. Your department's well run, so thank you so much. Made my job a lot easier.
Very good. County Administrator Jason Boyd.
Batting third in the lineup as Commissioner, you always answer the phone. Hey, Commissioners, Jason, how you doing? It's a great day. Every day, every time, even through the hardest of your time. So, on behalf of your staff, and then notably coming from me, I hope you have many more great days in the future. Thank you.
Anything for our administrator before he runs off? Okay. Jeez, beating feet out of here. All right, Madam Clerk.
Yes, I wanted to mention that our next commissioners meeting is going to be on Thursday, May 5th, 2022, 10 a.m. And also, I wanted to mention that I'm going to miss asking Commissioner Young to sign things for me.
That I won't miss. I'll miss the sound of your voice and your smile, so.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's been a pleasure. We've had a great time working with you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Yes, there is a small mountain of things that need to be signed after these meetings, so that is what our clerk is referring to. Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, moving on to legal. Sir.
Commissioner, I'd just like to thank you for your service to Lake County and the state of Ohio, and may you have a healthy and happy retirement.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it.
Excellent, thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to old business. Do we have any old business to come before the board? Any old business? All right, moving into new business. I do have a couple things I want to touch upon here. I'm sure you heard an awful lot of talk here today, our sheriff, our prosecutor, our judges. I just want to add a couple of sentiments here to get it into the record. One of the things that this board is committed to is growing Lake County economically. The bottom line is we want to make Lake County a great place to raise a family and establish roots. Our sheriff is really big on that. He's an easy person to talk to, and he's really good at defining things. That's one of the things, if I had to say what is one of the highest qualities of Sheriff Liam Bruno, he's really good at defining things in a very understandable way. But why do people want to establish roots? Safe communities. And what are the keys for a safe community? Strong law enforcement. One of the things this board has done to support that are the COPS grants. I believe our sheriff can give us an update on where we're at with that with our townships. But that was a unique initiative that we saw a need, and we had a firm commitment to our townships of how can we find a way to work with our townships to get them where they need to be and give them a path of how to get to where they need to be. Lake County also has a premier communications system for voice and data. I can tell you I've been working on that since I first worked for the county in the telecommunications department. I'm very pleased with our telecommunications department and how well they interact with our private sector who supports the system, as well as all the police and fire agencies that utilize it. I'll get into this a little bit more, but a little later in this discussion. The Statewide Interoperability Executive Committee Board. Lake County is Zone 2 in the state, and that is a strong commitment on the part of Lake County to not only the people of Lake County, but our entire region, as well as the entire state, which is part of a national communications network. But continuing with that thought, in order to have a safe community, you have to have a strong prosecutor's office. And we have that. But it is challenged. And we have to support that because you need cases that are taken to court in a timely way. Good cases, vetted. Our prosecutor uses what I believe he calls vertical prosecution. It's worth the cost because it's effective. There are ways you can save money, but pinching pennies and having things fall through the cracks on people's futures, the justice, if you will, does not get served when you kind of piecemeal things. And our prosecutor Colson is, if nothing else, diligent at not piecemealing things. And a strong judicial, our courts, fair trials, appropriate sentences. I think it's fair to say that Lake County is one of the Supreme Court's sites for the unified sentencing system. Judge Lucci, his court, is leading that up, and Judge O'Donnell was actually on the steering committee that set the ground rules. Lake County is very, very fortunate to have those elements in place, serving the people of Lake County, and again, establishing roots. And to that, I thank Sheriff Leon Bruna for his vision on that. I see we do have our sheriff here and our prosecutor here. I know, commissioners, you've both been very passionate about this. I think this is a good time if you want to chime in and add anything to that. But I think this is well worth discussing.
Mr. President, I would say two things. Number one, I look forward to hearing our sheriff's update on the COPS grant program. Best I know, it's first in the nation for a county to provide funds for their townships, to have a 3-year grant program, matching deputy, to help them increase patrols, increase safety, because to your point, without a safe community, there's no community at all. A precursor to economic development, businesses, residences, homes, is to have a safe community that people want to live and work in. So the provision of the COPS grant to the townships, which has already put 10 additional deputies on the streets, on patrol, is a major economic development success for the east side of Lake County and a serious investment from the county and the township. So we've seen very positive developments from that already, particularly in Perry Township, which went from having 0 patrol to having 2 deputies. But I look forward to hearing the sheriff's update. And second, I know that today we're announcing a significant reinvestment and investment in our prosecutor's office. As a law professor, it's very important to me that the administration of justice, when we enter the courtroom, where prosecutorial discretion and trials are at hand, that we have good qualified people and enough of them to review the cases carefully, to bring the right cases to trial and indictment, and to give justice to the families, the victims, and the defendants. That is not an easy job. Our prosecutors don't have a 9-to-5 work session. Many of them are here till the wee hours of the morning, working nights and weekends, because when there is a murder trial, lives are at stake. When there is a trial for any serious crime, our community is at stake. It's been said before, I'll say it again, it's not a good idea to commit a crime in Lake County. And many people, knowing this, deliberately have avoided committing crimes in Lake County. We're all the beneficiaries of that. We're all safer because of the sacrifices that our prosecutors have made. And I don't want to limit it to the lawyers. Without the victims' rights advocates who help guide them through the process and procedure that can be very foreign to a lay person, without the legal secretaries, without the support staff in the prosecutor's office, it would be impossible for the county prosecutors to do their job. So I want to acknowledge everyone who serves in that office for their role in the justice system. We haven't finished crunching all the numbers yet, but in approximate terms, we're talking about a roughly $250,000 annual investment in the prosecutor's office to bring 2 prosecutors, another victim's rights advocate, and another legal secretary to bear so that we can meet the ever-increasing caseload. And it's important for the public to know that just as crime is rising across the country, we do have a very significantly increased caseload in our prosecutor's office, and with no additional staff, in fact, with cuts from 2020, they've not only met that caseload, they've met it well, but to continue that diligence and that work to keep us safe, it is important to have a reinvestment and indeed an increase in the prosecutor's office. And we thank our county prosecutor, Chuck Colson, for leading that office with the highest ethics and integrity, for guiding his young prosecutors and less young prosecutors like Dave Hackman to do the great work of justice in Lake County. And I do want to say with respect to Mr. Hackman that he and Mr. DeLeon in particular have worked with the county commissioners as our counsel, and it's truly a pleasure to have him sitting here because we always approach each meeting with the confidence and knowledge that he helps us to stay on the straight and narrow, always remembering the law and justice in every decision that we make. So we are grateful to have you here. Though you may not be as young as you used to be, we're still grateful to have you here. So I look forward to hearing from the sheriff's office about the COPS grant program and from our county prosecutor about how this reinvestment will allow him to continue to do justice for all of Lake County.
Very good. Yeah,
Commissioner Young.
I'd just like to add, to keep the republic running, it's more than just knowing and believing that our Constitution is a wonderful document. There's components, there's building blocks to making that work. So things like we're talking about, the COPS grant, where townships who may not have the financial wherewithal and the way that they're structured, taxation policy, et cetera, may not give them the ability to hire additional patrol officers. The prosecutor's office, if they're not functioning properly, then clearly people don't have access to justice. And they need to be funded properly in order to provide that component of justice. The judges working extra hours. We have counties throughout the state of Ohio where the judges don't work those extra hours and people wait in jail needlessly for 6 or more months at a time before they even have a chance to go before a judge. These are all components of the belief system that this country is based on. If people don't have faith in the system, then the system slowly collapses in a republic. So, when I first went into public service, these things were just ephemeral kinds of ideas to me. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's a matter of people like John and John here on a daily basis figuring out what do we need to do as leaders to make this work. And to do that, we need to spend money wisely. So I think here in Lake County that we can be proud that we do have a working, functioning justice system that our citizens can believe in and sink down roots here knowing they're safe, that they're going to be well treated, they're going to be fairly treated, because the system is their system, paid for with their dollars by representatives that have their best interest at hearts and will work hard and even give their lives to protect the freedoms that they're guaranteed in that Constitution. So I am proud to have served with these gentlemen and proud to be part of governing here in Lake County. So thank you.
Very good. Sheriff, do you want to add anything to the discussion here, sir?
I guess I don't have a formal report on the state of the COPS grant, but it's very good. We brought in 10 young men and women to be deputy sheriffs patrolling in our townships. They're exceptional. We brought in, one guy is a linebacker from Division I college and is now on patrol in our townships. We brought in people with experience from the State Patrol, from the Cleveland Clinic, from other jurisdictions. Why did they come? Because they want to come to Lake County. They believe that this is a county with a community that supports law enforcement, and they want to serve here. And they also understand the wider system. I guess if you were teaching class and you showed a loaf of bread, and you showed what's behind that loaf of bread is farmers and bakers and machinery that produces that loaf of bread. When you see the police officer on the street, it's only one element of our justice system and patrol. And there's so much infrastructure that goes into that with vehicles, whether that's body cameras, whether that's the buildings themselves. And the commissioners office has always supported law enforcement in the county, providing some of that infrastructure that is key there. And that's not only in terms of law enforcement, it is, you brought up, it's important to have a strong prosecutor's office, and we do. And the challenges of that is growing every day. Today's society wants to see body cameras. They want to see what's going on and what that experience is with law enforcement and how that interaction is with the community. When a body camera records an incident that eventually appears in court, you might see 10 seconds, you might see 15 seconds on a video at a news media, but there may be 20, 30 minutes of video that our prosecutor has to have his attorneys. You can't give them sections. It has to be the whole raw video, and they have to spend hours and hours going through that video to help build the criminal case. And it's great, but when you think there's 27 police departments in Lake County, all with video going to our prosecutor's office, it is an overwhelming task for them to deal with this amount of information that's demanded today. So I applaud the Commissioner's Office as stepping forward to bolster that, because I do believe, as you have stated, that it's important to grow Lake County economically. It's important to have communities where people want to come, raise a family, establish roots, but you can't do that without good law enforcement on the street. You can't do it without a good prosecutor's office who has the ability to quickly, or let's say efficiently, move cases to our courts without delay. And then a great judicial system of judges that we have here who are willing to look and say crime is not acceptable here, and those who violate crime will go to jail. It sends a message that Lake County is a place you want to build your family and grow your business. So thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir. Just kind of adding on the COPS grant, as Commissioner Pleshnik pointed out, it was in fact unique. You know, there was a federal program years ago that did have a shelf life, and it did end. I believe that was about a 3-year program. We chose to go 4. Just again, wanted to keep the politics out. Reason being, 4 years is, you know, the maximum you're going to see of any elected official. So, you know, you don't have anybody jockeying to try to get a superior position by cutting or adding. I want to say it was also a great opportunity to work with our township trustees. We have to expect our trustees are going to vigorously advocate for their residents. There was a number of interesting exchanges, to say the least, but we settled on what does the law require, where do the responsibilities land, and who helped guide us through that? Our prosecutor's office. Our prosecutor's office was instrumental in putting together the vision, the contracting, the necessary steps, although we cannot obligate township trustees to put in place funding mechanisms, we can work with them and show them a pathway for sustainability, for where they need to be. Realistically, 2 of our townships are bigger than most of our cities. Most people don't realize that. And that's a tremendous responsibility for those trustees, but they're also part of the Lake County family. So our trustees, working with our mayors and managers, we are unique. The level of communication, the cooperation, this whole COVID pandemic situation, it really proved just how well we can perform when we work together. And when we set agendas aside and we look at, okay, what is the good of the all, and are we compromising the good of the individual, and then finding that balance point. And that was something that our prosecutor's office helped us with, sometimes on an hourly basis. I don't even want to say daily, because this was an ever-changing landscape at some points. But our prosecutor's office has been absolutely essential, not just on the criminal side, on the civil side, in keeping things moving, maintaining professionalism, and just that sense of balance, looking back to where's the authority coming from to take this action? How do we respond to this situation? All key things. And I do see our prosecutor, Charles Colson, in the audience. Sir, is there anything you'd like to add to this discussion? Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Yes, I would. Chuck Colson, Lake County Prosecuting Attorney. I do want to digress briefly, if I may, and just say thank you, Commissioner Young, for your 2 decades of service. You will be missed in Lake County, and I'm going to miss those phone calls. Your phone calls where you would call me and we'd talk about legal issues involving Lake County and the law. Some of the discussions were inane, some of them were mundane, but they were all interesting. And it clearly showed that you cared about Lake County and you wanted to think outside of the box and you wanted to do something good for Lake County. So you will be missed, and thank you for your service. I'm very happy to have known you for the last 2 decades.
Thank you.
But to get back to the prosecutor's office, I don't want to have to repeat everything that's been said, but basically things have changed in the last couple of years in prosecuting cases. And it has become much harder. Not only has the caseload increased, but the complexity of the cases have increased. The amount of evidence that we have to process has increased. The sheriff mentioned some of those with body cameras, cell towers. We have cameras now on streets and intersections that have to be reviewed, and it takes so much more time just to prepare a case. And it's not just, we can't find one little, if we're watching, think of an incident that might occur. Let's say we have a shooting and it's in one of our cities, and we have 4 or 5 cars pull up. We've got 4 or 5 police officers with body cams. We've got 4 or 5 cameras in their cars and they leave them on while this is going on, and if it takes them 3-4 hours to process the scene, and you multiply that by the number of cameras, you can see how many hours that we have to review all of this. And we have to review every bit of it, because we have to not only look for evidence that the criminal committed the crime, we have to look for evidence that he didn't commit the crime, something that might be exculpatory. So we have to look at everything, and it takes a long time to do that. It takes a long time to review cell tower information. Sometimes we get literally, and I don't know if people can see me, but we get stacks of nothing but numbers of cell tower information that we have to sit there and go through to try to determine where that individual's cell phone was at the time the crime was committed. Was he near there? Was he not near there? It's just very complicated. In the last few years, it has changed tremendously. And the personnel in the prosecutor's office is just now back up to where it was in 2008. And our caseload is substantially. This appropriation that you're giving us is greatly appreciated. It's greatly needed. And I want to personally thank all 3 of you for taking the bull by the horns and realizing that, I know it wasn't easy, Trust me, I know it wasn't easy, but I do appreciate it because it's necessary for us to continue to prosecute cases at the highest level. And we do that, and we work real hard. And I want to talk about some of the people in my office, because it's been said that they don't work 8 to 4:30, and they don't. There isn't a weekend that goes by that somebody, or many of them in the office, are working late at night, sometimes into the wee hours of the morning. They're working on the weekends. They have to. It's just the work cannot be done any other way. And they're dedicated, and they do it, and they're excited about it. And I have a great staff. And what this new appropriation that you're giving us, not only am I going to have, you gave me one lawyer earlier, and you're giving me another one. I will increase it by 2 lawyers, which is great. We will also increase it by a secretary and a victim advocate. And those victim advocates' jobs are really difficult. They have to deal with people who are suffering some terrible traumas in their life. It might be emotional trauma, it might be physical trauma, it might be a family whose a member has been killed. And they have to deal with these people and help them, and they do help them, and they get them the counseling they need, and they literally hold their hand as they walk through the criminal justice system. You will sometimes see them sitting outside the courtroom holding their hand. You will see them in the courtroom holding their hand and helping them through the process, because it's difficult. So I can't express how thankful I am for you recognizing, for the Board of Commissioners recognizing that we do need this additional appropriation, and I appreciate it, and I gladly answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Wow. Yes, you're very thorough. Thank you, sir. Okay. I guess we're good on that topic. Do we want to move on to the next? I can segue into I alluded to it earlier, the Statewide Interoperability Executive Committee. We had our meeting just the other day. There are continuing upgrades to the statewide system. They're going to be, and I won't get into how long and what day the system will be doing an update, but it'll be no more than, allegedly, no more than a 2-minute interruption, and the system will, there are provisions to be coping with that, but this is one of those big system-wide updates. There is a June 30th deadline for purchase orders from municipalities if they are planning on upgrading their radios rather than replacing. There's some authentication software that they're looking at. Also in the coming days, this is an interesting testament to how well things are working. They're looking at adding 5,000 more subscriber units, more radios to the Marks radio system. Again, that has to do with the interoperability within the state of Ohio as well as our nation. And this is always good when I get these private and also these public thank yous to Lake County. And we got a big thank you yesterday during the meeting because of Lake County's continued leadership in support of the statewide system and of our safety forces. Our facilities here, our Lake County Emergency Operations Center, we have continued, even though it's an aging facility, we've continued ongoing maintenance, system upgrades. We're doing everything we can to keep that in the forefront, and the leadership. It's I'm going to say I appreciate the gratitude. They're not used to having an elected official that actually came out of their ranks, somebody who actually has worked in the communications, who's helped and served with law enforcement. That helps bridge those gaps in the applications. I can tell you, I remember the days when we literally had police officers standing on their bumper getting their radio as high in the air as possible because of line of sight issues. Those are challenges. We've had issues here in Lake County where firefighters going into buildings didn't know if they'd be having communications, and I remember the worst story I can recall is having to throw a rock at a pump operator on an engine to get his attention to change the pressure because the radio wasn't working. They could not make contact. So it's really important when you hear a recognition of Lake County's leadership and our continuing commitment to our public safety forces. A couple of things, we all hear about the alerting systems. Amber Alert is an example. There's ongoing testing, And there's also continuing for redundant and backup means of activating these systems. The EAS, the Emergency Alert System, the Weather Alert, FEMA, all of those they're finding glitches, but they're testing them and they're working through them. So those are the kinds of things that builds confidence. So you have redundancy and reliability. Something of interest, though, would be in-building communications. I alluded to that a few minutes ago. It's kind of like fire suppression systems. You put them in, they're maintained. Well, there's some challenges. These in-building communications, they're called bidirectional amplifiers and other techniques to maintain radio communication inside of a building. Those standards are continuing to be developed and implemented, and the documentation of these systems and their actual locations are being memorialized and provided to our public safety forces, so they know literally they can do some spot testing just like they do for preparedness and other ongoing site visits for like a fire marshal and other type activities and pre-planning. So those are all very important. Again, Lake County is literally in the forefront of that as well. And a quick update, I had mentioned this before, we had revised code 128, there's a replacement bill pending for the E911. Lake County, we are the call center for wireless 911 calls. And the funding that comes in for that is actually less than the cost of what it's doing. There's some interesting debate about, what are the proper fees that should be charged. You see it on the landlines, that's a cost for having 911 access, but the wireless, there's some challenges. Well, that's an extra tax. No, that's a fee. You get into all this semantics of, some people don't want to be accused of raising taxes. Well, you pay for what your true costs are. It's a fee. It's not a tax. And that seems to be one of those things where, I'm going to get hit with being a rhino. I'm sure that's going to show up in a political ad someday. But it's like milk. You're not subsidizing a gallon of milk. You're paying the cost plus whatever the markup is from the vendor. Well, government's not in the business of marking things up. And, when you've got a premier facility like our central communications under the sheriff's leadership, that is not cheap. There are costs associated with that. And the dispatch facility and the way that those dispatchers and their level of professionalism, we hear the term telecommunicators because they do more than just push a radio button and answer a telephone. The level of skills and the complexity. Same thing as our prosecutor was referring to. The work today is not the same work as little as 10 years ago. So a lot of those mindsets need to change because technology has changed, demands on the community has changed. So we are very blessed to be able to have all of this going on, and I'm honored to be able to serve on this statewide interoperability executive committee, and I appreciate the support on that. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Else, Commissioner Pleshnik, I believe you had some new business you wanted to bring forward.
Yes, indeed. The first item, Madam Clerk.
The voting.
We actually have the chairman of the Board of Elections with us, so I'm going to impose on him to give a little update on how the election's going and how we can vote.
Thank you, Commissioner Dale Fellows, Chairman of the Board. I wasn't here in that capacity, but I'm happy to be here and to tell you in the report that voting is starting to get much brisker in the last few days as people are realizing there is a primary and a very important primary here on May 3rd on Tuesday. So we encourage everybody to come out and vote. If you can't vote on May 3rd, there's still time to do it via absentee mail, or you can come here to the Board of Elections and vote here. We'll be open on the weekend as well, during the day on Saturday, and from, I think it's 1 to 5 on Sunday. And then in-person absentee voting will stop on Monday by 2 p.m. So we hope that you'll take advantage. It's always best to have as many people there to vote as possible. And to get a true and accurate account of how people are feeling about the different races that are there. So we have, you've got statewide, federal, and local races. So the only ones we don't have for this particular election this year because of the districting issue is the state legislative and the the Republican and Democrat Party state central committee races. So that's it.
So, Mr. Chairman, 2 questions. What is the last day you can get an absentee ballot, and what's the last day you can vote early?
So you can vote early by 2 o'clock on Monday. And again, we're open Saturday, most all day, and Sunday from 1 to 5. As far as by mail, we can't send any mail past Saturday. So, but if you can apply now, today's Thursday, you still got Thursday and tomorrow to apply, and we can get those ballots out to you real quick. But they have to be back and postmarked. You have to make sure that's postmarked the day before the election. So if you do have a mail ballot, and that's one thing I was just looking at our numbers. As of today, we only actually have 59% of those people who have requested a mail ballot that have been sent have actually returned them. So almost over 40% of the people that have mail-in ballots haven't returned those yet. So we encourage you to do that. Make sure when you do take it to the post office, it would be highly encouraged to have the stamp. Make sure you see that the postage stamp is there before Election Day. You can't mail them back on Election Day.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I'm aware that you can bring an absentee ballot to the drop box right here at 105 Main Street,
Correct.
Painesville. When is the last moment of time that you can bring that ballot back physically and put it in the drop box right here at the Administration Center?
Monday.
Monday, what time?
Same time. For the drop box, that's still the end of the day. To the end of the day on Monday. Yeah.
And it's permissible, correct me if I'm wrong, not only to return the absentee ballot yourself, but to have an immediate family member bring
Correct.
it for you as well.
Correct. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other questions? Then?
Very good.
Great.
So thank
Great.
you.
Great to see my friend Ron. Congrats. Looking forward to working with you in your next endeavors in life.
Thanks, Tim.
Very good. All right, is there any other new business? Jen, I think you got a couple of points here again.
Yes, we have another slide with what Mayor Morley was talking about earlier at the meeting, and there's some pictures of the commissioners receiving their keys.
Well, I think we just want to repeat our gratitude for such a great partner in Mayor Dennis Morley, President of Mayors and Managers and Mayor of the City of Eastlake, as well as Council President John Myers, Council Vice President Dave Spotton, and all their colleagues in Eastlake Council. The Captain's Organization and the stadium are very important to Lake County, and it was really an honor to attend the council meeting when the grant of ARP monies from the county to the city and the stadium were formalized with the acceptance by City Council. President Hammercheck was there, as well as our county manager, Jason Boyd. And on behalf of the county, I know that it was a special moment for all of us to see the good we were able to do working together. Collaboration with our municipalities, whether they be cities or townships, were really the theme of today. And this was a great collaboration.
Well said. Jason, do you want to add anything to that, or I think that pretty much encaps that. Jason Boyd, our county administrator, was also in attendance. Okay, and gee, let's just turn to the next page there. Yeah, there we go.
And also, I wanted to congratulate Commissioner Plechnik and Professor Plechnik, named Dean's Teacher at Cleveland Marshall College of Law at Cleveland State University. He was awarded this a couple days ago, and this honors for the next 2 years. Dean Lee Fisher announced that John Plechnik was named Dean's Teacher in recognition for his 11 years of teaching tax law and estate planning at Cleveland Marshall College of Law at CSU.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything you want to add to that?
You know, I would just say, Mr. President, that one of the most rewarding things about becoming commissioner is getting to see my students in a brand new context after they've graduated, and the great work that they're doing. When Prosecutor Colson took the time to take me through his office, I'd say about half of his prosecutors said, "Hello, Professor." And I got to see them again as they're not just learning, but doing justice. At Cleveland Marshall, at Cleveland State University, our motto is to learn law and live justice. Well, Prosecutor Colson and many of my former students who work for him are living justice for all of us, and it's been special to see the great work that they do together.
Excellent. All right. So if there's no other new business to come before us, we'll move into the second public comment. Do we have anyone wishing to address this board at this time? Sir?
John Music, 45 Coventry Drive. I just want to make a comment, and since the prosecutor's here today, that I have mentioned in many meetings and previously here, I have said that there's nothing more important in any community here in Ohio or anywhere in this country than law enforcement. Nothing. And what takes the precedence is, just remember this, to have law enforcement, it takes all through three groups: the law enforcement officers, the prosecutor's office, and also the judges. And I've said this many times here and many other meetings. And I just wanted the prosecutor to know that there are people out here, and like I said, I go to a lot of meetings, and I do let the people know, never, ever, ever take it for granted. Never. We've got to work. Just like years ago when they had the crime lab levy on, I was asked if I wanted to go on a tour of it, and I did, and we have a meeting with the people who management and the people that work there. I learned a lot. And I was, this way, what do we do? Yes, no. And after going through that meeting, I thought, we need to give the tools to the men and women of law enforcement to do their job. Just like when they built the jail, this new jail here, I had a tour of that. And the thing about it is, we need to know, like I've said at these meetings, I said with Captain Brooks and our sheriff, since they were the jail administrators, and I support building a new jail, I said, we have, we all can look in from outside to see how we think things work, but until you actually work inside and do that job, you have no idea what actually goes on. And, remember, as you know, I call them subject matter experts, because who could be a better expert of what goes on in the jail and what is needed than the jail administrator? So I just wanted to say that never, ever take law enforcement for granted, and that's the number one priority in any entity in this country, not just this county or it's like Painesville Township, and the sheriff will know. I live in Painesville Township. I've lived in Lake County my entire life. Most of it, probably about 80% of it in Painesville Township. But the thing about it is, and the rest in the city of Painesville, but beside that point, we need people to speak up. And as the sheriff knows, I spoke up at a trustee meeting, and I said, we got to do something here. Because I go for a walk every day, and just from going around, you see, well, in my opinion, there's a lot of people, for various reasons, just like at a traffic light right there at Normandy and 20. Somebody someone stopped, they looked at the light, it was red, they looked both ways, and they made a left turn on red. And I saw that once here in Painesville, the corner, I don't have to mention the street, and I just thought, what is going on here? And just like when you read about the accidents, that rolling stop and all this stuff, that people didn't stop, like that one truck accident, I think it was Geauga County or something. A bunch of young kids were killed in that accident, a truck hit them. And it was just very sad. And it's just the important is, without law enforcement, we won't have a country. And thanks to these three departments here in Lake County, we are very fortunate to have this. And like I said, never, ever, ever take it for granted. We've got to work. We've got to get these men and women the tools they need. And there's no higher priority than that, in my opinion. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else wishing to address this board? Anyone else? All right, moving on. There is a request for an executive session. The purpose is personnel, collective bargaining. There will be no business to be conducted afterwards. Do we have a motion to adjourn for the reason so stated?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please. Oh, good heavens, what do we got here? Are we supposed to be jumping on this happy retirement thing, or have we beat that? I didn't even look up. Sorry, folks.
I think we've heard enough of that.
Ron, any before we have the clerk give our any parting words of wisdom?
Just keep on pushing.
Well said, sir.
Nothing more than, I had said a few words last week. I think I've beat that horse to the point where it's died several times. So I think we should just move on at this point.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, sir. All right, Madam Clerk. Roll call.
Commissioner Plechnik. Commissioner Plechnik.
It's hard to say this time. Before I'm willing to vote, a round of applause for Commissioner Ron Young.
Now, that's not a quid pro quo. You know, we got our prosecutor in the office, in the audience here, so. The floor is yours, sir.
I vote no, because when this meeting is over, Commissioner Young is leaving, so I don't want it to end.
Okay, was that a serious vote, or?
Yeah, I vote no.
Commissioner Young.
I vote yes.
Commissioner
Our first
Hammercheck.
disagreement.
Yes. All right, thank you. This meeting stands adjourned for the reasons so stated previously.